Live. Okay. Good evening and welcome to the, that's not October, it's December 12th, 2020 Design Commission regular video meeting. I'm Colin Brandt, Vice Chair of the Commission. In accordance with Proclamation 20-28.11 and the Governor's Extended Safe Start Order, tonight's Design Commission meeting is using video conferencing technology provided by Zoom. The Zoom video of this meeting is being broadcast live via Zoom and will be uploaded to the city's YouTube channel. CPT Director Jeff Thomas, Senior Planner Robin Probsting, and other staff members are participating in tonight's meeting remotely. Other public audience members are listening to the meeting by telephone or via the internet. Welcome to all and thank you for joining us tonight. Commissioners, please make sure that your microphones are on and I will do roll call. Chair Rich Irwin is not present. Vice Chair Colin Brandt is present. Commissioner Grambois.
Here, present.
Commissioner McPherson.
Present.
Commissioner Perez. Commissioner Suprono.
Here.
Hey, you made it. Excellent. Commissioner Czar.
Present.
Excellent. We have a quorum. Commissioners, before we start the business of tonight's meeting, I want to suggest a few rules to help the meeting run smoothly. If a commissioner has a question, please use the raise hand feature. I'll do my best to recognize commissioners in the order in which the hands are raised. If staff can help me see some of that stuff, that would be great as well. I'd appreciate any heads up if I'm missing somebody. Everyone will be asked to limit himself or herself to one question and one clarifying question if necessary, so that each board member has a chance to ask a question before a board member is given another chance to ask another question. First item of business is to review and consider approving the previous meeting's minutes. Commissioners, do I have a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting? I'm assuming everybody got a copy of those. Okay.
Sorry to interrupt, Vice Chair Brandt, but I'm not sure why I don't have a raise hand option.
Commissioners are, if you open the participants button, and then at the very bottom of the participants
I see it now.
You should have raise hand.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
Thanks, Andrew. Okay, any comments, corrections, concerns about the meeting minutes? Do I have a motion to pass the minutes?
I'll make a motion to pass the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Suprono. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 We have
Any
to
against?
we have to do a roll call.
We have to do a roll call vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I apologize. I will just limit to the people that are here. Commissioner Czar?
Aye.
Commissioner Brandt says aye. Commissioner Grambois?
Aye.
You only get one vote there. Sorry, not two. Commissioner McPherson?
Aye.
Let's see. Commissioner Suprono?
Aye.
And I believe that's it. Okay. All right, so those meeting minutes pass. And those minutes are approved. So let's see. Moving on to the next business. Tonight's agenda will not include in-person public appearances in accordance with Proclamation 20-28.11 and the Governor's Extended Safe Start Order. However, individuals wishing to speak live during the appearances portion of our meeting may do so by telephone or by using the Zoom teleconferencing application. Provided, however, they register the desire to speak with the senior admin by 4 p.m. today. Our senior admin will call on you by name or by telephone number when it is your turn to speak. Andrea, did we have anybody register?
Vice Chair, we did not have anyone register for appearances or to speak in the public hearing. Okay.
I'm going to forego the next section of my script here, if that's all right. So we now move to the next item of the agenda, the public hearing for the Mercer Park office building renovation. I'm going to read this procedure below and then we'll get into it. This public hearing is for the purpose of rehabilitation of the existing regional, nope, I've got the wrong notes here.
You do. I apologize, Chair. That was my mistake. The public hearings for the purpose of the exterior remodel and renovations of the Mercer Park office building.
Exactly.
You can pick up with individuals.
Sorry, where am I?
Second
Number
sentence.
2 here.
Yep.
Okay.
Even though we don't have anybody who wants to speak.
Okay. You want me to read that anyway? Okay. Individuals
Yeah.
wishing to make public comment on this agenda item may do so by telephone or by using the Zoom teleconference application, provided, however, they register by 4 p.m. today. This public hearing is now open as of 7:09 p.m. Those wishing to provide public testimony, please speak audibly, state your name for the record, and limit your comments to 3 minutes. 15-second warning will be provided when the time is about to expire. Andrew, you've confirmed that there is nobody that has signed up for public comment.
We've confirmed that there was no one to sign up for public comment, and none of the people listening have raised a hand.
Okay. Then I will officially close the public portion of this hearing as of 7:10 p.m. Okay, so the item of business here is the review and decision for the Mercer Park office building renovation. Senior Planner Robin Probsting will provide a brief presentation of the project. Take it away, Robin.
Thank you, Vice Chair. So I'm Robin Probsting, your Senior Planner. Tonight you're reviewing project application number DSR 20-006, the proposed exterior renovation of the Mercer Park building, formerly known as the Farmers Insurance Building. The applicant has applied for a Design Commission design review, and the Design Commission is the decision authority for that type of approval. The Design Commission did have a study session on this project in July, so it'll probably look familiar. And the applicant's prepared a brief presentation reintroducing the project, so I will turn it over to them in a moment. And then I will follow with a presentation on the project's compliance with the city's code. Are there any comments or concerns so far? And does that sound like an okay way to proceed? Okay. Well, with that, Mark, I'll hand it over to you.
Great, thank you. I'm trying to share my screen, so let me know when it pops up for you.
It's thinking about it. There we go.
Perfect.
We're good to go.
So thank you to the commission and Robin and staff for all the work that you've done. I realize how difficult this has been in transition since the departure of Evan. So we appreciate all the support and effort to make this happen before the end of the year. Our project is predicated on really 2 pieces, as we discussed last time: interior scope, which we've already permitted, and then these exterior renovations.
Excuse me, Mark. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Sure. Mark Gerhardt, Ryan Companies. And for whatever reason, my slides aren't really advancing here.
It just moved forward for us.
Perfect. So the agenda for this evening, it's based on the content that we presented in the study session in July, and then have modified the agenda and document with updates in red that reflect content that's changed since July, so that you have the context of the original information, and then we'll give background on the updates and or the rationale for the change. What we'd love to cover is quickly an update on the community outreach we've done, and largely what we've learned from the community since the last time we presented, and then walk through the 3 revisions that were covered in the original staff report, which were modification to the east facade, modification to the front entry and plaza, and then the roof deck restoration that we discussed in July. And then with each of those, we'll walk through the initial content to refresh everyone's memory, and then walk through the study session feedback that we'd receive and a summary of the changes that we've made in response to that feedback. So the update on community outreach, and the reason we wanted to bring this up again is was really reassuring. I mean, we've reached the point now where we've done a second round of mailing to the public, which is another 7,700 residents and businesses as a follow-up to our study session in July. Since then, we've sort of topped out on individual visits to the website and direct inquiries from the public. We held another 4 virtual open house meetings to download the information or feedback that we'd received at the study session and then ask for a response from the public. And where we are right now is really consistent with the information in the staff report, in that we haven't received any new information beyond what we heard from the commission this summer. And I think that the fact that there was no public comment in response to our initial study session package and notice that went out publicly, we really have touched the community and feel like we've got a really strong proposal based on input that we've received over the last year or so. So thank you to the commission and then all of the public support we've received to get to where we are. Again, for the good of the cause, Ryan Companies is the developer for the project. My partner on the project, Kate Susky, is on the call this evening, and you'll probably see her face and name as the project moves forward. Burgess Design is our architect, and Randy Morgan is on the call if you have design-related questions. Jessie Clausen with McCullough Hill Leary is our land use attorney. She's on the call as well. Todd Bronk with Jet is on the call, and he's our landscape architect. And then Urban Forestry / Bartlett is our arborist. And based on where we are, I had actually asked Miles and Jim not to attend, but if there were any specific questions, we can follow up with them as well. So really quickly, I'll tick through the rationale and the content we presented last time, just so there's context for the changes that we've made. So again, we selected this image for the building intentionally to make a point. Our vision for the project was to attract a dynamic creative class company who would lease the building and use it as a tenant that would be accretive to the community. So a technology, research and development type company with creative class jobs. In order to attract that kind of talent, we need to make some changes to the building in order to make it compelling for that kind of company. And our list of changes in order to attract the tenant were largely retain the bulk, height, and scale of the building, but make cosmetic and functional upgrades that allowed the building to be functional and attractive for that tenant, which includes painting the building exterior, adding the transparency and removing the berm on the east side of the building, creating a formal entry front door to the building that was welcoming and compelling, and then restoring the roof deck that had been on the building historically.
Mark, can I interrupt you real quick? Sorry, I tried to raise my hand, but I don't know. So just stepping back for 2 seconds, when you said that there were no additional comments or no new information, I think you said there was no new information obtained from the outreach to the community. Does that mean that nobody responded, or there was no new information from people that did respond?
The city received no comments on the study session package or the notice that was sent for the land use application. Okay. We've done significant outreach to the community, and each time we ask them, here's what we're intending to do, here's what we've heard from all these stakeholders, including the design commission. Does anyone have any additional feedback? For the first 6 months or so, we got quite a lot of really good feedback. We're at the point now where we present this, and even when there's new folks in the room, there's not a lot of, hey, you ought to think about this for this reason. Okay. Which is the point I was trying to make.
So you are hearing from people, but it's not new information, because I think those are different things, right? Like.
Correct. So we had 60 plus folks attend the last community virtual open house meetings. We present for roughly an hour and then ask for feedback, and we just aren't getting, hey, you should consider this anymore.
Great. Thank you. That's all.
I apologize if that wasn't clear.
Clarify. Thank you.
No problem. So this next series of slides in the deck are just to give you context again. So the first item in the original staff report was east building facade renovation, and that was broken down into 3 components. Modification to the color or repaint of the screen wall, landscape modifications where we regraded the berm and cut in new glazing or new windows on the east facade, and then the removal of 4 trees, 3 maple trees and 1 oak tree. Those were the significant changes that we were making on the east side or 77th side of the building. We put together these slides that we presented that articulated charrette level ideas about what we had hoped to achieve with paint colors and the combination of hardscape and landscape to articulate what was happening on the east side of the building. We spoke to describe sort of the fundamental challenge when we looked at acquiring the project, which was this lowest floor of the building, for fresher memory, was where Farmers Insurance printed their life insurance policies, which has no access to daylight. So one of our fundamental challenges to make the building useful was how do we get natural light down into that lowest floor of the building, which necessitates regrading this berm and eliminating the trees. In order to make that happen, we create a light well, which is effectively the ability for daylight to get down into that lowest floor of the building. And then that ultimately culminates in a rendering of that facade with a plan that articulates the intent of what we were trying to accomplish. And the context, through much of the feedback we'd received, was trying to accomplish a couple things. One was, how do we just activate this facade of the building so that it's more useful for the public and folks that are in the building? And then also, one of the pieces that we had learned through the interaction with the farmers market was a desire to create some amenity space for the market to use on the weekend. So that was the context on the east facade as we had prepared for the study session. I updated this just to provide context for the commission of why this is different this time than it was last time. Staff, particularly the arborist, was focused on how these existing trees relate to the hardscape that we're planning to add, and is there any opportunity to retain any of these trees. So we did an overlay of the storm drainage and the trees and the hardscape to help demonstrate that same conclusion. There really isn't a way to preserve those trees and accomplish this amenity space and daylight into the building. So that's why that's different. But otherwise, the balance of the content is the same. So again, as a backdrop of what our discussion was in July, we heard several things. And what was really apparent as we left the study session and started to work on the modifications was when you started to organize the information we received into buckets, it was really consistent and clear. So thank you for the feedback. There were pros and cons. The pros were largely supportive of the moves that we had made to reposition that side of the building. The berm and tree removal felt like a fair exchange for the public space that was added. The addition of windows and sort of the activation of that side of the building enhanced the appearance. The hardscape and seating complemented the rhythm of the architecture, farmers market functionality, Mercerdale Park, kind of the feel of what we were trying to accomplish felt like it made sense. The program made sense, but there were concerns about specific pieces of it. Specifically, the first one was the scale of the hardscape and seating. There was a concern that it would feel empty when it wasn't operated for the 3 hours during the farmers market on Sundays. And you'd end up with this big field of paving on the east side of the building that maybe wasn't in alignment with the pedestrian scale that people are used to between, you know, the farmers market and core of the town center. So the ask was focus on a variety of materials, seating, landscaping, something to break down the scale of that space. So it wasn't these large expanses of this homogeneous paving. The next, so just as a note, I tried to consolidate this. If there's a number next to this, it was the number of commissioners who reiterated the same concern. So this was, again, a really clear message. Go fix this issue on this side of the building. Next one was related to the screen wall, and it was largely just a concern about how the colors occurred on the screen wall, and it was sort of in two buckets. One was we had a light body color on the building and then a dark screen wall that, if you recall, had sort of this gradation, or it was trying to mimic a brick bond pattern that wasn't necessarily terribly effective, and there was concern from the commission that that might not be achievable or wouldn't turn out well. So we talked about that for quite a while. And then just a question or concern about how you could create some depth or break down the scale of the building with different colors. So those were sort of the primary concerns that we had heard coming out of the meeting. So as a result of that, the two images you're looking at and the images that were in the package were a response to try and address those concerns. So organization against the facade and the original architectural design for the building is still aligned. We're still trying to achieve effectively 4 of these little hardscape eddies off of the sidewalk adjacent to the facade, with a pretty fundamental change if you look at it just in scale. So when we went back and looked at this, if you look at the old image, the ratio, if you just took one of these little modules where you had hardscape and some landscape, was roughly 70% hard stuff, 30% landscaping, some break in this hardscape, which again, great point, felt a little heavy. So the goal was, how do we break that scale down? And we effectively reversed it. So it's just under 50% hard to soft. So there's significantly more landscape, smaller hardscape elements, and then they're broken up with seating and some variation, so you don't just have these rectilinear blocks of paving. And then the second piece of that is related to the paint applied to the building. So we looked at a whole lot of different alternatives associated with a paint scheme, and ultimately took the advice of several commissioners, which said we think this would read better if this was a dark body color and then a lighter screen wall color. And then one of the commissioners had a great suggestion of, if you model this and look at, the face of it as one color and then the balance of the wood slats as another color, it might read a little more dynamic as you move by. So we modeled that. And what we ended up with was a darker, body color, and then 2 colors for the screen wall. So this lighter color is very similar when you look at the entry facade, close to what a concrete would look like. And then the darker colors on the face. And it really does make a difference as you move by the building to create some variation in shadows across that screen wall. So those were the primary pieces of feedback that we'd heard, and then the response to those are included in this update. Next one was staff report item number 2, front entry and plaza renovation. And this broke down into 4 different pieces. The first of which was there was a screen wall element that didn't really read like a Class A element at the front door of the building. So we had proposed to remove that. Second one was there's an existing covered entry that's not enclosed today, and we proposed to add glazing to create a contemporary competitive office lobby you'd see in a new office building. We had proposed adding some operability in that facade so you could open it up on sunny days and create some porosity between the plaza and the lobby. And then the last one was the relocation of a statue that's Mercer Island owned public art in the plaza. So those are the 4 pieces of the staff report item 2 from back in July. And again, just to walk you through some contextual images so you could see the changes that we had proposed back then. Here's that existing element that is the screen wall we proposed to remove. This was the facade image that we had shown. The next one was enclosing this covered entry with glazing. So we had proposed this curtain wall element that enclosed that entry feature with glazing. And then within that feature, we had proposed this operable door in order to create that porosity between the lobby and the plaza. There was activation of the plaza that we proposed in terms of landscaping, seating, sort of all the elements that would make it compelling for someone to spend time there that might not spend time there today. And then as a result of those pieces, we received feedback that informed our proposal that we've submitted today. So the pros that we heard coming out of that were enclosing the existing entry, it will create a sense of place that didn't exist today. The new lobby feature signifies a front door kind of in concept. There was a whole bunch of concerns about how it worked, but it gave you a place to walk in that didn't necessarily exist today. The removal of the screen wall and curtain wall system create a high quality feel that wasn't necessarily part of the building program today. And then landscape and trees will soften and activate a plaza that's a pretty barren experience today. So that was the pro feedback that we'd heard from the commissioners at the study session. The cons, again, sort of walking down the list from the most obvious to the least, was there was very succinct feedback that it wasn't clear to the commissioners where exactly the front door was intended to be and how exactly a person who's visiting is going to get in. And there was a couple comments about it could be, you know, building color for sort of broadly this element where it's sort of supposed to be the front door. And then the second one is just the actual door. Where is it? What is it? How do I know that I'm supposed to walk in this location? Second one, we heard a comment on, which was a great piece of feedback, that this column that's on the outside corner of this lobby entry just doesn't relate architecturally to the other elements that are either on the plaza or in the building. And there was an opportunity to make that more cohesive. There was a problem with the render just generally, and the glazing appeared opaque as though it didn't read as, you know, vision glass that was clear. And then the screen wall color variation doesn't make sense. So sort of that same comment about colors of, you know, why is this thing sort of this homogeneous light color when you could create some contrast and break down the scale a little bit. So again, when you went back and listened to the study session and actually went through the comments again, it was great because these were all relatively cohesive and consistent in terms of feedback. So here's a side-by-side of what you see from our study session presentation back in July, and then the proposed solution that we've included in the package. And if you tick through these kind of in order, just the hierarchy or organization of what's happening at the front door, this entry element, when you went back and looked, it was really difficult to tell just en masse against the scale of the building, how was this entry feature any different than the bulk of the facade elsewhere. So one of the opportunities when we reversed the color scheme and made the body color darker was to create this contrast and really create a sense of here's the place where you walk into the building. So that's the macro level change there. And then against this actual curtain wall assembly, it picked up those other suggestions. So this column that exists and will be replaced with concrete will tie in and look like the hardscape that's elsewhere on the plaza. So existing painted concrete landscape planters we intend to sandblast, and then things you can go touch will look like raw sealed concrete rather than painted concrete walls and stucco today. And then the glazing assembly itself, there's a portal that's added on the outside of the butt glazed curtain wall assembly to signify the entry feature and front door, and then landscaping that's organized around the front door so you can see a really clear access path and entry point for the building. The next piece that we talked about, and this is super unfortunate, we have a piece of public art on the property that actually belongs to the city of Mercer Island. It sits within an easement. It's owned in the art collection and managed by the Art Commission. And about I don't know, a month ago now, someone vandalized it and actually tried to steal it, cut it into pieces, and it looks like they were going to try and sell it for scrap metal. There's cuts in the assembly as though someone was literally going to destroy it and try and sell it for bronze or something. So it is insured, it's in the city's art collection, but what and how this gets replaced is completely TBD at this point. Obviously, we'd love to have some great art on the property. We'd love to figure out how to reposition this easement and make it work for the city, but at this point, our proposal does not contemplate this piece just based on the damage and issue that we have with the art. So we checked through the code and with staff, and it is possible to fix this provided there's art that works outside of the land use approval process. It's managed through the art commission. So our intent is, after we get through the land use approval, follow up with Sarah and try and figure out how to make this work after the fact. The third item in the staff report was the roof deck. And specifically, there were two pieces up on the roof deck. One was an existing screen wall assembly that, again, has the same issue, or has this, would have the same issue as the front door, where you're in this high touch space as a building occupant, looking and touching something that really doesn't feel like a high quality element right at the front door. And our proposal was to remove that screen wall element. It is not visible from the right of way and would not be an element that would affect the public on 77th or at Mercerdale or anywhere if you were trying to view the building. And then in order to restore the deck that was on the building originally, the way the Mercer Island Code works is if the element is removed for more than a year and it no longer meets land use and building code, then you have to revest those improvements. In order to revest our improvements, we have to add an egress path off of the deck, which involves extending this stair tower. When you extend the stair tower, it creates roof appurtenance. So that the concern's really about how do we make sure that that's not a visual impact to the community. We put together these graphics that show you the screen wall and then this rooftop appurtenance or doghouse that would become the access for the new roof deck. This occurs on the far south end of the building. So right on the opposite side of this is Recycling Center, Little Pocket Park, and then Mercerdale a little bit further to the southeast. We'd shared these images that were, again, standing at the intersection, kind of right at the corner of Mercerdale. Recycling Centers just to the left, Pocket Park's in front of you. And it was pretty clear that there's a whole bunch of opacity between the park and that feature on the building. But the concern, sorry about that. The pros and cons associated with this roof deck restoration, generally the feedback from the commission, again, was really supportive. Makes all the sense in the world to have a roof deck on the building. I want to thank everyone who said, hey, I think this is kind of silly that you have to even go through this process again. I agree with you wholesale, but we're going through the process. The cons were all related to 4 folks said, hey, we just need to make sure that there's no visual impacts if you go put something on top of the building that affects Mercerdale or public space adjacent. So the ask was largely do view studies. So what happens when you start to look at the view corridors for the building, this is just an image looking from the corner of Mercerdale and Pagliacci headed due west. And what
did anyone else lose their image?
Yeah.
Could you refresh your screen? Could you refresh your screen, Mark, or just toggle back and forth once? We lost the image, just went black, dark for a minute.
Let me stop sharing and I'll reshare. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's all right. It's thinking about it. Still thinking about it.
So Zoom quit unexpectedly. Generate a crash report to help Zoom resolve this problem. I don't think so.
I don't think that falls within our purview.
Yeah, way over my favorite. Stop sharing again. I'll try. Ironically, this is kind of right where my ability to operate the technology died when we were going through the study session. So at least there's consistency.
I am trying to download it.
There you go.
Oh, there we
We
go.
got it.
Good. So here's, again, so the pros, everyone was supportive of restoring the deck. The cons were views. You know, how do we ensure that this rooftop appurtenance is not going to be a problem? So the ask was, can you show us some view studies, you know, from this Pagliacci, Mercerdale Park, 78th intersection looking west, and then just a view study adjacent to the building. So what happens is you can do this view study from the east side of the building ad nauseum, and based on the configuration of that doghouse, you just never see that element from this side of the building. If you get close enough where you could actually view it, the tree canopy is pretty crazy between anything on the right of way to the east of the building. I mean, there's large mature trees that are on public property at the corner of 29th, right opposite our building on the Rite Aid corner. And then if you look at the actual view study of the building in the pocket park, so this is adjacent to the recycling center, next to the trail that goes up the hill, and just look at view obstruction or view problems associated with the doghouse. What we found is we'd initially proposed trying to figure out how to literally landscape the top of this roof pitch with sedum or something that made it less apparent or visually obtrusive. And the reality is no one ever will see this top pitch of this roof. It's simply on the wrong side. And what it meant was, in order to build a green roof on top of it, that whole assembly got much taller because you needed freeboard and flashing and all the stuff. So our decision was to remove that sort of built up roof assembly, do it with metal, and make the whole thing shorter. So the clarifications from last time that commissioners had asked and we didn't have a good answer for was, what's the parapet height at the exterior side of the building, and how likely is that view obstruction to occur? And what happens is, as you'd expect, there was a deck on the building before. The parapet on the east side, where there's a flat pitch, is a 42-inch high parapet today. And then on the south side, where the roof slopes to a crown and then slopes back down, it gets just below 42 inches. So it ends up at like 37 inches in the center. So what we had proposed was add that handrail element out of the line of sight inside the parapet, and then pull the scale of the doghouse down so it literally doesn't show as an obstruction. So this image you see on the left is if you were literally sitting on that knee wall in the pocket park looking up at the top of the building, how much of that roof exposure would you see if this tree weren't photoshopped out of the image, which it is. And the answer is there's just really not a view obstruction or a view impact from the public space on that end of the building. So here's a couple of images of what the element will actually look like. So here's that metal roofed doghouse assembly, again, trying to slope it so it's eliminating visual impact and then reducing the height as much as we can. And that was all of the content updated from last time. I apologize if that ran long, but I'd love to respond to any questions you might have. And again, our hope, provided there's some more support from the commission, is to obtain your approval and go renovate the building. And I'll stop here.
So commissioners, we could go about this, I think, two ways. If there are any initial questions for Mark, or his team, we could ask them now. I know Robin should give her presentation as well, just so we have the picture from staff's perspective. Given the format, it's going to be easy to have people chime in at any given moment. So if there are initial questions of clarification and that kind of thing for Mark, let's ask them. Otherwise, let's turn it over to Robin and let her go through her piece, and then we'll circle back on all of it. All right, I'm not seeing any questions. Robin, why don't you take it away?
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. So again, the project we're looking at is the Mercer Park exterior renovation. And again, it's located in the southwest corner of the town center. And because it's in the town center zone, Chapter 1911 of the city's code applies. Here is the building as it exists today. And as Mark described, the improvements fall into 3 general areas.
Robin, we're not seeing your screen yet.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I'm not.
Rookie mistake. No,
I
thought I can see it. I'll just, I apologize.
That's starting to come on.
It's just showing, okay.
Yep, there you go.
Thank you. All right, so context, here's the vicinity, the town center zone, and then the 3 general areas where the improvements are taking place are the east facade, the front entry and plaza, and then the roof deck. So since the scope of work is limited to the exterior modifications to an existing building, and it's not a new building like we looked at our last meeting, what I've done is to comb through the town center standards and pull out those that are relevant to the proposed changes. And I'll just briefly summarize those. So starting on the east building facade, the applicant is proposing to remove the berm alongside the building, install new landscaping and bollard lighting, and paint the existing building in wood screen in different colors. And here the bollard lighting standard meets the code requirement that lighting be pedestrian scale and shielded. The bollards are of a style that shine light downward and provide illumination on the path for pedestrians. And they avoid being, say, at eye level where they could cause glare, or tall or designed in a way that would cause light trespass. So the lighting meets the code standard for the town center. And then the proposed color palette on the facade is also consistent with the code by being harmonious and avoiding bright colors. And here I've shown a before and after showing what the colors would look like. At the front entry and plaza, the applicant's proposing to add new landscaping and benches, add a curtain wall glazing and overhead door, and paint the wood screen. Here, the code speaks to using landscaping and design to emphasize building entrances, which here is accomplished by the framing of the overhead doors with the planter and landscaping on either side of the entrance, sort of framing those and emphasizing them as directed by code. The section of the building where the front entry is located, shown here on the right, is painted this light contrasting color, which sets it apart from the remainder of the building, emphasizing the entrance, again, as directed by the code. And the transparency of the glazing and the overhead door distinguish the entrance from the rest of the building, again, adding more emphasis consistent with the code. And the color scheme is also proposed to be the same as along the east facade, keeping the colors consistent on all sides of the building, as well as harmonious and avoiding those bright colors, as the code says. And lastly, oh, here is the before and after as well. The final component is the roof deck. The applicant's proposing to remove the existing screen and add a deck paver system and add the doghouse. Rooftop appurtenances are limited by code to no more than 10 feet in height above the top of the building, with which this design is consistent. The doghouse is 10 feet from the top of the building. It is also proposed to be painted the same color as the surrounding building. And again, meeting that code requirement that materials and colors be used with cohesiveness and compatibility on all sides of the building. So having reviewed the project file, staff is recommending approval with conditions. This is all I had prepared, but I am happy to turn things over to the commission for discussion and or be available for any questions you might have. And I have a draft motions as well if you're when you're ready.
Sounds good. Thank you, Robin. Any commissioners have questions for Robin? And I think at this point, probably and or Mark as well about anything they're seeing. Is that Commissioner Grambaugh? Yeah, please go ahead.
Mark, would you please walk me through again, darker color for the building and the screen, is it going to be alternating those two lighter colors? How is that going to work?
Yeah, let me show you. Apologize, it's going to take just a sec. So we looked at, while this is coming up, we looked at several different alternatives, some that were significantly more contrasting than where it landed. But the gist of it is, the suggestion we received, which was a great idea, is if the intent is as you move across the facade, if there's an intentional variation in color that would allow you to see and accentuate that shadow line between the face of the screen wall and the perpendicular side of the screen wall, as you move by it as a pedestrian or an occupant in a car, you'll see sort of a dynamic variation across the screen wall, just by virtue of these gaps between the slat feature. And the two colors that it'll be painted are the two colors in the upper right-hand corner. So left is the body color for the building. Center is the outside face that you see when you're looking directly at the building perpendicular to the facade. And then this white color is the balance of all those slats painted. And so we looked at this with a darker color as the side of the slats in the back and a lighter color on the face, and tried to read how those different shadow lines would function. And the reality is there's a couple challenges. The existing wood slats are actually quite close together. So if you put a darker color in between them, the whole thing just kind of reads dark, versus if you paint the outside face darker and then have a lighter color, you can actually see some contrast. If it gets too dramatic, it's kind of ridiculous. So the goal was, how can we create enough contrast so that you can actually see that sort of dynamic presentation as you move by the building without making it seem kind of corny and obtrusive. And I think Randy and his team did a great job of working through that so that it does, in a really subtle way, accentuate the visual impact when you see it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Czar, you're next on my screen. Do you have any questions?
Yes, I wanted to go back to the entry. If you wouldn't mind going. Thank you. And I wasn't sure if I think I misunderstood this, but the mass of the entry, the two faces of the walls are the same color, correct?
These two facades of this lighter color?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. I wasn't sure if when Robin was presenting that there was one that was lighter than the other, but it's just a shadow. They're the same color.
Correct.
Okay.
And I think it was actually your comment, but we really tried to align all this hardscape mass that you see when you walk up to the building as it reads as though it's one feature. So, you know, this architectural concrete, the column, this facade will all sort of read as though it fits together. And then there's actually a curb that carries the curtain wall. So I think when you walk in the front door, it'll feel like this cohesive thing, it was great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, I think the entry sequence feels a lot stronger, and it looks like you've created a frame at the entry door that sits proud of the curtain wall.
Yeah,
Is
we
that
did.
how I'm reading that?
It's this assembly right here.
Like
I
a
don't know
little
if you can
portal frame.
Yeah, exactly.
Let me see if I'm thinking more at the scale of the door. Like
That's correct.
Right here.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
right there. Yeah, so we looked at several, and there were some that were, honestly, they just felt really clunky and big against what this is. The goal was just, how can we create kind of an elegant nod to, hey, here's the front door, without sort of bunging up. That glass assembly looks really, really good when it's just a super clean glass wall that's butt glazed with silicone joints. So our goal was, how could we create an assembly that would resolve the challenge that you guys had highlighted, but not create a whole, architecturally another feature that we're trying to align with the building.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Anything else, Commissioner, or does that cover your questions for now?
Those are my questions. I will reserve my comments.
Okay, great. Commissioner McPherson, you're next in my line.
Thank you. And just to clarify, the curtain wall at one point that was going to be variable as far as like a door, garage door kind of thing, is that still in the plans, or is that completely replaced by these stationary walls?
No, it's this element right here.
Okay, I feel better, because even with your mouse on the screen, I cannot tell.
I apologize.
Great. No problem. Thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, it's right here.
Okay, so it will be the left garage door, but the right side will be stationary.
Correct.
Perfect. All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Suprono, any questions?
Yeah, on the entryway, I'm reading a lot of like kind of these vertical panels that are, I'm just wondering about what the spacing of that is, and I'm not sure if it's just that I can't tell in the details.
We're talking about these lines right here.
Yeah, exactly, of the glazing in the entryway.
Randy, do you know what the spacing is for the mullions at that curtain wall?
Yeah, they're probably going to be about 3.5 to 4 feet. I think what you're reading is the line of the windows behind. So what we've done is, they used to be the exterior windows within, and it's set back. So what you're seeing is the lines of those windows, the office space behind it. So that's why it reads the undulation. There's like too many lines in that, but we're about 3.5 to 4 feet.
Yeah,
mullions.
what I'm wanting to see is like the lines from the windows up above and the story above kind of mirroring the ones below, and I kind of assume that's happening, and that I'm seeing the second layer, but it's kind of hard to tell.
Commissioner, I'm gonna I'll go take a look at our drawings and just confirm that. I'll look at our permit drawings to see, because we have an elevation of that. So it's hard to tell from this rendering if that's occurring. So.
Yeah, one of the pieces that we've found is pretty important when you're trying to shift the image of this kind of space is this assembly that will span full height and not have any horizontal structural elements. Really truly does change the feel of that space when you're in it. In order to accomplish that, these spans are pretty dramatic. So we need to have a tighter mullion spacing. So the mullion widths in the existing punched openings are wider, but they're kind of a fundamentally different assembly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the other idea is that we're trying to have that glazing be just a clear entity that you can see through and not necessarily relate, but not. So we'll let me pull up the elevation of that. I don't know necessarily to share, but I can at least confirm that.
While he's looking for that dimension, are there other concerns or questions about that?
Not from me.
Anything else, Commissioner, or does that cover it for now? You're good? I see you're muted. Okay. I guess my question has to sort of do with the doghouse and the deck a bit. Did I read correctly that there used to be a second exit from the deck, and that it disappeared for a while, and you're basically now reconstituting it? Is that, did I read that right?
No. So the deck had one. It in today's code wasn't even a legal exit. The doors swing the wrong way. But it had 2 sliding doors and a pair of man doors that swung out onto the deck. And then the egress path was through the core element in the building. So there was a 4,000 square foot deck that was permitted in 1982 with 1 exit through the center of the building. And in order to be compliant today, we can't get to the same 4,000 square feet period. Based on the stair widths with 2 exits, we're kind of capped at around 2,800 feet, assuming that's all assembly space out there. So our goal is just to extend the stairwell that has a width constraint to get the access to work. And
is the doghouse located directly above an internal existing set of stairs?
It is, correct.
Okay. Okay. So the location of it's really fixed by that.
It really is.
Okay. Okay. And Robin, I understand that, you know, from the code, the language says that a turbines may extend 10 feet up, which these guys have hit, and that it should be 10 feet away from the edge of the building, but that's a should, not shall. So we do have some flexibility regarding its proximity to the parapet.
I'm just double checking the letter of the code. That what you said matches my recollection, but I want to be absolutely sure. The screen, okay, it should be at least 10 feet from the exterior edge, but again, it is a should statement. And
okay, yeah. Great, thank you. Okay. I think unless anybody else has any follow-up questions, we're kind of into, well, I guess we've got a couple of options. We could make a motion, or we could have a round of discussion, see where everybody sits, and then decide from there what kind of motion to make. I think for just efficiency's sake, it probably makes sense just to have a round of discussion and see where everybody is. If there's general agreement this should go, then, you know, then things will become pretty clear. So why don't we do it that way? Why don't we go in reverse order this time? Sorry, Tom, you're next.
Fine. I'm really impressed by all the changes that were made. I think it's the color choices of making that solid background with the lighter facade looks way better. I think the resolution of the column is way better. The entryway is much more clear. In terms of that, the changes in the ratios between the landscaping and the hardscape being closer to 50-50, that I just think that looks a lot better too. It makes more sense. I never really had any issues in terms of the rooftop. So I don't really have any other issues. I think the changes look great, and appreciate all the changes you guys effort you've put towards it.
Great. Thanks. Commissioner McPherson.
Yeah, definitely agree with Commissioner Soprano. It's refreshing to see the updates. I really appreciate the variation of the colors on those protuberances for the sidewalls. I think that'll be really interesting gradient effect walking by. And that's such a highly traveled pedestrian pathway, that side of the building. That should be interesting. Appreciate the landscaping considerations, having that more of that green space. I think that'll make it a difference, both driving and walking. So that should be nice, since in the rain, so many of us aren't getting out of our cars, at least for half the year or so, if not more. Very, very sorry to hear about the public art debacle. So hopefully, as the city moves forward, that can be addressed, or hopefully you don't have to come back to this body, but addressed and incorporated as public art, because I think that's such a valuable way to improve the pedestrian experience as well. But yeah, I don't think I have any other critiques. I like the adjustment to the front wall enclosures at the entrance to the building. I think those modulations in the glazing will make it not only more approachable, but much more obvious as to what's going on with that entrance. So thank you.
Great. Commissioner Czar.
I also agree with Commissioner McPherson and Commissioner Soprano in your thoughtful response to the last round of comments. I think it's been a very thoughtful and thought through presentation. I have one suggestion or just a question, you know, maybe just something to consider. It's the only thing that feels a little less resolved to me, and that has to do with the sort of residual band on this view here that you're showing. The upper floor windows, yep. So they don't align with the break in the paneling. They don't, you know, because of the ceiling drop. And so it appears to me, if I could just do a quick annotate, it appears to me that this inside here is, I don't know if that's a shadow or if that's intentionally, if, you know, these little returns are darker color. But would it be something to consider to kind of paint this out, actually end it here and end it here so the column goes up? I'm not doing this very well, but essentially to come in with a tone that kind of matches what's going on down here and kind of expressed on the interior as kind of a continuation of a frame. Just a paint change there. Trying to sketch on something, but not very clearly, unfortunately. Am I kind of making sense? I say that because it helps to, I think, frame that overall corner. There's something unresolved to me about the window head not hitting the line above, but
I think it's
my own OCD.
I think it's a render issue. If you looked at the dark line that you see, it's a column inside the space. That glass assembly's at the facade, so you're seeing structure behind it. You know what I mean?
I see. Oh, okay. So it's mainly the you know, what I'm perceiving up here is just a question, just in terms of if there were to be it would read as a header to the windows, essentially, is what I'm trying to say in a long-winded way. Other than that, I do like the proposed treatment of the darker tone on the body of the building and the way that you've treated the screen. I think it brings a quietness, but still a dynamic element to the facade of the building. I think the entry, especially with the landscaping, and it feels more like an entry sequence without it being too blown out of proportion. I like the scale of what you've done there. And I think the roof deck makes sense. And I also think on the street side, the balance between hardscape and landscape feels really nice. So I commend you on all of your hard work in working through some of those questions that were brought up in the last meeting. So thank you for that. And the only other suggestion I have is maybe there's an opportunity with the city to do a call for artists or something to find an opportunity for public art in this project. But well done, thank you.
Thank you. Just a note for context, because your feedback is consistent with a bunch of the work that we did early on. We looked at trying to break down the scale on that particular piece of the building any further. And what's tough is if you start to change colors and there isn't a feature line that you can use that actually creates sort of a terminus, I mean, Randy's team probably looked at a dozen different alternatives of multicolored, and all of them seemed like they created more problems than they resolved. So our goal was, if we can make it seem like it's all homogeneous and then create a really nice element at the base, hopefully that reads well when people walk up to the building. But I appreciate your feedback. We spent endless hours trying to figure it out.
Well, the only reason why I'm bringing up the potential of just treating the headers above the windows as rendering them as if they were headers is there's the scale of the door and then the scale of the building itself. It doesn't read like there's a sort of medium scale in between. It goes, I like the way the entry portal was defined and the landscape around it that's at a pedestrian scale that's going to be beautiful. But from there, it zooms out to kind of the scale of the mass overall. Yeah. And so that's, you know, I was trying to kind of bring that middle ground. But, you know, without it, I think it works as well. It's more of a suggestion.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Grambois.
Thank you. I think it looks really nice. I'm excited to see the opening, like the entrance when it opens, and to hang out in the new plaza with my kids. So thank you. I watched the study session, so I think you guys did a nice job addressing the concerns, and I look forward to seeing everything come to completion.
Thank you.
Oh, did any cameras happen to catch the people who were trying to disassemble art?
No, I mean, it was crazy. There's a facilities guy there for farmers full time, even though the building's not occupied, and he gets there awfully early in the morning and leaves at 2 p.m. So, I mean, he left, it was fine the day before because we were in the building, and then the next morning he showed up, you know, like 5 a.m. and it was damaged. So it's really sad. I mean, it's a really cool piece of art too. So I'm shocked in this neighborhood that would happen.
I think I don't really have a whole lot to add. I think everybody kind of covered, you know, I think, you know, my appreciation for the efforts you guys have made, both with the community and certainly with our feedback on the commission. I think, you know, I'll make a note that, you know, the couple of the places where we have discretion, again, back to the doghouse just momentarily, you know, I think I'm completely fine with the approach. I think the, you know, letting it be closer than 10 feet in a should condition makes a ton of sense here, just because it doesn't impact your visibility, right? Or the view of the building or the beauty of the building from pretty much anywhere. I think, you know, it's appreciable sort of in the park or on the street or whatever it might be. So, you know, I think from a technical perspective, you know, I think it's just clear to make that distinction. Otherwise, I think you guys you've done a great job, and I think we're good to go. Any last questions or comments from anybody? Okay, so next order of business is to generate a motion of approval.
Pardon, Vice Chair, would it be helpful to have sample motion language displayed?
That would be fun, sure. That would be fine. As you know, staff has put together a recommended motion, and it is, it has sort of the standard, 2 bullet points that they have in all of their recommended motions. There aren't any additional conditions of approval that staff has in their recommended motion. And so the general option here, there we go, would be to make a motion to approve the recommended motion by staff. I would then look for a second, and then we would have a quick discussion to consider any additional conditional approvals that we would like to add to that recommended motion. Okay, so I guess I'll leave it at that then, and ask if there's anybody who would like to put forward a motion to approve staff's recommended motion.
This is Commissioner Czar. I move to approve the recommended motion. Do I need to read it in full?
I'll do that at the end.
Okay.
Just to clarify things. I guess I'll look for a second, and then I'll ask anybody who would like to add any additional conditions of approval to bring those forward at that time. So do I have a second?
I'll second that motion. It's Commissioner Soprano.
Okay, terrific. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. We'll tell you what, I'll read it now, and then you guys think about any additional conditions of approval. And if there are any, we'll discuss them and vote on it at that time. The recommended motion is we move to grant Mercer Park South LLC design review approval for the proposed exterior modifications to the building located at 3003 77th Avenue Southeast as shown in Exhibit 2, subject to the following conditions, and further conditioned as follows. Number 1, all aspects of the proposed development shall be in substantial conformance with the detailed information submitted with this application. For example, elevations, perspective drawings, colors, materials, font, size of lettering, and relationship and layout of the approved wording and graphics as depicted in Exhibit 2. Condition number 2, if a building permit is required and the applicant has not submitted a complete application for a building permit within 3 years from the date of this notice, or within 2 years from the decision on appeal from the final design review decision, design review approval shall expire. So that is the existing motion on the floor. Would anybody like to add any additional conditions to that motion? Okay. So we have a vote. We have a motion on the floor. It's time to vote on it. Commissioner Grambois.
Aye. Yay.
Commissioner Czar.
Approved.
Commissioner McPherson.
Approved.
Commissioner Soprano.
Approved.
And Commissioner Brandt votes to approve. The motion passes. If I had a gavel, I'd hit it on the table. Congratulations and thanks to you guys very much. We appreciate all the work.
Thank you. And particularly Robin. She went out of her way to make this happen before the end of the year. And it's huge for the project. So thank you so much for the work you did. Appreciate it.
Rockstar Robin.
I would like to also thank all of you for your time. Appreciate it. Mark, you rock. He's a very good presentator. So, thank you very much.
Wasn't smart enough for architecture school. That's the deal.
Well, yeah, you are. You're smart, buddy. You're smart. Mark's smart. So,
thank you guys so much. Have a great holiday, and we'll hopefully see you when the building opens.
You're very welcome. We're moving on to other business. You guys are free to go whenever you like.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Okay, commissioners. Can you guys still hear me? Yeah, great. Moving on to other business. I would like to welcome Jeff Thomas, Interim CPD Director, for a quick director's report.
Yeah.
Jeff.
Hey, thank you, Vice Chair. Good evening, Design Commission. And Mr. Gearhart's presentation was really well done. Very impressive to watch and tune into. It was interesting to listen to for someone that frankly didn't know a whole lot about the project before this evening or late this afternoon. And thanks to Robin as well for helping guide this one to the finish line here with the Design Commission. Great work, and it's greatly appreciated. Just in terms of next steps for the Design Commission, we are going to have, it looks like, a project come to you early in 2021, subject to a City Council action regarding a public landscaping easement. Council is going to take that matter up on January 5th. And then provided it gets resolved that evening or shortly thereafter, the actual design review application will get rolling, and we'll see you at some point early next year. A little bit broader, more general news. For those of you following along, you'll know that the City Council did adopt a biennial budget for 2021-2022. Last week, I believe it was, last Tuesday, final action. And so that sets our department budget and work program for the next couple of years. And it's going to be a busy work program. Lots of legislative work to do with amendments to our comprehensive plan and development code amendments. We also have completely, not completely redone, but made some substantial changes to our permit fee schedule. And we're instituting a new time tracking methodology in the department with our permit reviewers. So we're going to be busy working on that and making sure we're correlating up our levels of service and cost recovery targets set by the City Council with the revenues that are coming in. I guess that's, really about it. Finally, I just wanted to say thanks for your service here in 2020. I know you didn't meet that many times as a body in 2020, but hopefully we're going to have a few more meetings in 2021 with a few new projects, and we're looking forward to it.
Sounds good. Thanks, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff? I actually have a quick one. Did the council's budget provide any additional staffing opportunities for your department in planning and building review?
Yeah, it did, actually. Thanks for asking that question. It did. The final budget did reinstitute 1.5 FTEs that were subject to the layoffs earlier in the year. So that was a half FTE of a permit technician and a full FTE of a planner position. And then in addition to that, the council approved a new position that is a limited term, 2-year limited term position, an economic development coordinator. That position was more or less established this year, kind of ad hoc, as a result of some of the CARES Act money that the city received to help small businesses on the island. So council saw that as a worthy cause and has extended that work for 2 additional years. And then perhaps most importantly, the council also approved another new position, which is a regular full-time position, a senior policy analyst position for the department. That position is going to focus on a lot of the legislative work that we're doing with the comprehensive plan. A housing needs assessment was funded for next year to a small amount of money to go out and get some external help with that, but we'll need some in-house resource for that as well. And council also funded a small amount of money to complete a town center commercial feasibility study that is correlated to the moratorium that is in effect right now for the southeastern portion of the town center. So yeah, a couple of new positions of varying forms and fashions, and then a couple small amounts of money for some third-party professional services as well.
Got it. Great. Thank you. Thank you. Announcements and communications.
I have an item, Vice Chair.
Go ahead, please.
So I wanted to get the commission's kind of do a temperature check. Staff is looking to move up the start time of design commission meetings, especially while they remain virtual. So we just kind of wanted to get your guys's thoughts on, are you opposed if we move the start time up to 6 o'clock, that would be the same as Planning Commission. City Council meetings right now are at 5. Some of the other boards and commission meetings are also at 5. So we just kind of wanted to find a balance. It's easier for staff if we can start earlier because there's less downtime for us from when our usual workday ends. And we
Still
figure a
on
lot of people are still
Wednesdays?
remote. Still Wednesdays.
I personally have a conflict. I rush to be available by 7, but I could try and shuffle.
And I'm going to send an email since we don't have the full commission, but I just kind of wanted to get your guys' initial thoughts on what you thought about moving up the start time of the meeting.
It works for me. It was harder for me to get back, you know, when I was working in Seattle and everybody was full tilt on the roads, but you know, this does make it easier.
Yeah,
so
that's why we're proposing it.
Yep. Okay.
Fine by me.
Okay, so I'll send out an email so we can get Chair Irwin and Commissioner Perez to chime in as well. And then we will see what we can do from there. And that was all I had. I do want to thank you guys. You guys are great to work with, and I appreciate that. So we've made it through navigating virtual meetings, which is fantastic.
We're doing all right. We're doing all right. Yeah, and good job on this one, you guys. This one came out well. I think it was well done on all accounts. So good job. We don't know when the next meeting is, so I will, at this point, and for the good of the order, close the meeting. Stay healthy, stay safe. Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Holidays.
Happy holidays.
Take good care, all.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone. Thanks.
Bye.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.